Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the St. Petersburg Science Festival. We are virtual this first year, and we are excited to have you here joining us. So I'm incredibly excited about our next presentation. I'm going to be introducing you to Christopher Sharp, and he works with the Florida Institute of Oceanography, and they're going to be talking about research vessels and life at sea. So Chris, go ahead, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Sharp. I'm the Communications and Marketing Officer for the Florida Institute of Oceanography. I handle all the web outreach, writing, marketing, graphic design, and social media for FIO. So you might be wondering who FIO is. What does the Florida Institute of Oceanography do? We are an academic infrastructure support organization for the State University System of Florida. What that means is that we don't actually conduct research and do the science. We support the science and we support the research done here in our Gulf waters and in the Atlantic. FIO is one of only two AISOs in the State University system. We operate the largest academic research vessel fleet in Florida, two large coastal class research vessels. If you see behind me, that's the RV Weatherbird, and that's the RV Hogarth. Now, normally for the St. Pete Science Festival, we take you guys on board, show you all the amenities and technological equipment that we have. But with coronavirus pandemic, we're not able to do that. So we will be taking you on a little virtual tour, 360 tour of the RV Hogarth here in a few minutes. And we also operate the full service marine laboratory down in the Keys, down in Long Key, Florida, which is just past Isla Mirada there. FIO is a consortium. So what is a consortium? A consortium is an association typically of several business companies. So what that means is we have 30 members, all from all around the state. We're hosted at the University of South Florida. Here's kind of a top-down view of all our members and where we're located here in the state of Florida. And as you can see, we have a lot of universities and colleges, and they are members of ours. They support us, we support them, and then we encourage collaboration among all our members as well. We also have some private institutions, such as Hub SeaWorld, Clearwater Aquarium, Florida Aquarium, the Smithsonian, and then we have some state entities as well, such as the Florida Fish and Wildlife, which is FWC, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP. We are headquartered in St. Petersburg, Florida, at the College of University of South Florida, St. Petersburg campus. We're down here in Bayboro Harbor. So if you're familiar with where the Coast Guard is down here, where FWC is, we're all kind of sharing the same port, which is great because we have our partners right next door. We also operate the Marine Laboratory, like I said, down in Long Key, and I include a little map so you can see where that is. And here are some pictures from on site there. What does FIO do? FIO, we take scientists, researchers, and students out to sea on the RV Hogarth and RV Weatherbird. That's kind of our primary goal and mission, along with hosting science parties from around the globe at the Keys Marine Laboratory there. What else does FIO do? We host, got ahead. So we host and or participate in oceanographic and marine science events. We host Oceans Day every year at the Capitol, usually in the early spring, late winter, and a lot of different marine science and oceanographic expositions and presentations from around the state. Pretty much if it's oceanographic and marine science involved, we're a part of it. We also do tours and activities focused on STEM learning for students just like you. So normally we have groups of students here, groups of classes. Again, we take them on the boats. We also do some demonstrations. We let you guys play around with our remote operated vehicles, which are these cool little robotic vehicles that go in the sea. And as you can see here in the pool, and then the kids operating it there from the computers. We also host annual marine field studies courses for college undergraduates and graduate students. The undergraduate portion is a 5-week course hosted by 5 different institutions. USF is one, University of North Florida in Jacksonville, Florida Atlantic and Fort Pierce. We also host another session down in the Keys Marine Lab, FGCU, and University of West Florida. Those are our 5 host institutions. It's a 5-week course, and it allows students to learn and observe in different environments and ecosystems. So it's a great 3-credit opportunity for our students there every year. So a little bit about the RV Hogarth. Once again, that's the vessel right over here. And that's a 78-foot vessel. It's been in our fleet since 2017. Done a lot of work out in the Gulf ever since. We have berthing. That means beds and cabins for 15 people, 5 crew and 10 science members and students. The vessel can spend 8 days at sea. It filters 1,000 gallons of potable water a day. That just means we're turning non-drinking water into drinking water. And I'm going to take you guys on a little 360 tour of some of the rooms on the interior. And we'll just go through this briefly. I encourage you to check out our website, fio.usf.edu, and do a more comprehensive tour on your own. But for now, we'll show you some of the key components of the RV Hogarth. Sorry, this is a very heavy presentation or very heavy images here, so it takes a little while to load. So this is one of our cabins. This is one of our berthing staterooms. As you can see, we have nice bunks, sink, and then we have some closets and a little work table. And that's where our scientists and students stay when they're out at sea. Here are some more photos. I'm gonna show you guys the engine room. This is where our technicians and engineers spend a lot of time. We have 2 600 horsepower diesel engines along with a big diesel generator that generates all our power when we're out at sea and we don't have access to power. So as you can see, a lot of moving parts down here in the engine room, a lot of maintenance involved, a lot of monitoring involved for our crew members there and our chief engineer. All of these little pop-ups here tell you what you're looking at. So again, I encourage you to check out our website, fio.usf.edu. And on the vessel pages, you'll see these 360 tours, and it'll allow you to go through and see the inside of our vessels there, along with the exterior. And again, you guys would be seeing all this in person if you were here with us today. And so we regret not having you here, but we were excited to be able to talk to you virtually. Here's the bridge. The pilot house is where the captain is. And our captains rotate. So we have a captain and a assistant captain, and they go in shifts. So they do 8, 8, 4, 4. They do 8 on, 8 off, 4 on, 4 off. It allows the captains to get a lot of rest and be rejuvenated because, you know, it takes a lot of mental acuity and focus to operate a big research vessel and take care of everybody on board and make sure that they're safe. So as you can see, some of the devices and equipment here. Here's our charting system that tells our captain where he's going, what's in the sea and how deep it is at any given time. We have radar, we have AIS systems, we have loudspeakers to the boat, and along with CB radios that go to the Coast Guard. We have a big spotlight, and then this big captain's chair, which you know, you guys would be welcome to sit on if you were here in person. And here's kind of our captain's workstation. That's where he puts out his maps and charts. And our captains are well versed into navigating the seas by the stars, by compasses, just in case our systems were to go down. The captain can operate the vessel accordingly. I'm going to get back into our slideshow here. All right, so this is the RV Weatherbird. The RV Weatherbird is the vessel right here to my right. It's a 115-foot vessel. It joined our fleet in 2009. It's in a lot of work. It's been to Cuba for 3 weeks. It's been to the Bahamas. It's been to Mexico. And its primary focus was studying the Deepwater Horizon spill, oil spill impact of 2009. And we were actually the first research vessel on site there. Some of the iconic photos that you see of the oil rig, you know, exploding and leaking out into the sea, you'll see our vessel off into the background conducting research. So that's been a main focal point of the RV Weatherbird, but of course we support a lot of different science on board as well. Since it is a bigger vessel, we can accommodate 20 people on board. Usually that's for 7 crew and 13 science personnel, students and researchers and scientists. It can spend 12 days at sea. Again, we have enough fuel to be out at sea for longer, but we tend to have to stop in port for provisions, water, food, cleaning supplies, laundry detergent, all those good things that we need to have a successful science mission at sea. So we usually stop in port about every 12 days and reprovision, stock up. We have the reverse osmosis water maker on board, and it generates 1,000 gallons of potable, drinkable water a day. Keys Marine Lab down in the Keys, as I mentioned earlier. It has short and long-term housing on site, 30 beds. So it allows science parties to conduct long-term research studies without having to leave the laboratory. We have advanced seawater systems and supply tanks. They provide the labs with a constant flow of reef quality seawater systems, which is great because we have a decades-long coral restoration project. As you can see in the photo here, we are taking diseased coral from the water down there in the Keys, bringing it to our laboratory, studying it, rehabilitating it, and then replanting it out there, and hoping that it survives long term. We also have a 220,000 gallon seawater pond there, as you can see in the picture. We support dive capacity. As you can see there, all the dive tanks and scuba equipment. So scientists and students are able to come down and do scuba and diving right there from our laboratory. We have a classroom dry lab, 2 research labs on site, and then we have a fleet of smaller vessels. There's one of them right there. Some of the research missions that we've been on recently, ever since coming back from our coronavirus pandemic delay there, is we've done some buoy deployment. We've done most recently a mollusk species identification and population study, which my coworker Rob Walker, our marine operations manager, who I'm about to introduce here, he'll talk about because he actually just got off the vessel yesterday, and he's going to talk a little bit about that and some of the other recent missions that we've conducted. And we've also done a benthic lander recovery. Here, as you can see, those are benthic landers. Benthic landers are observational platforms that sit on the seabed, and they record physical, chemical, and biological activity. So I'm going to turn this over to Rob Walker here in a minute, and he's our marine operations manager. Again, he was just at sea, just out in the RV Hogarth for the past 4 days with this mollusk species identification survey, and then we'll open it up for questions to you guys. So thanks a lot, and here's Rob Walker.
Thank you. I'm going to adjust this just a little bit so you guys can see me. I'm not quite as tall as Chris. Thank you all for logging in today. We're here at the Marine Operations Facility for the Florida Institute of Oceanography. As Chris said, we operate 2 research vessels out of St. Petersburg here for the entire state university system. As Chris mentioned, we're a consortium, so we have a lot of different institutions that are part of our group. And amongst those institutions are different types of researchers. So we may have, a biologist up at the University of Florida that needs to go out to sea to study red tide. So we provide these vessels for them to get offshore. Some of the other types of research that we do on the vessel, again, marine biology is the big one. Everybody wants to work with plants and animals, and it's kind of neat. You see the dolphin when we're out there, you see whales and fish, and it's really kind of interesting. That's my background, is in biology. However, the ocean, there's a lot of different areas of the ocean that we can study. We have biologists, we have chemists on board. Now, why would anybody want to know the chemistry of seawater? Well, there's salt in seawater, there's toxins in seawater, there's different chemicals that the organisms that live out in the ocean secrete or put into the water. So they may be looking at that. Red tide's a good example. So you have a biology end where you may be studying the actual the plankton that is the red tide, and then that affects the chemistry of the seawater. So it may take the oxygen out of the seawater, it may put toxins into the seawater. So we have chemists on board, and we'll take water samples from them, and they can take that water back to their lab and study it and find out what parameters are changing or remaining the same in the ocean. We may have physical oceanographers on board. Physics is the study of motion, and as you all know, there's a lot of motion out in the ocean. So we have a whole series of buoys off the West Florida shelf here that are operated by the Ocean Circulation Group here at USF. So we provide the vessel support for them to deploy and recover those buoys and go out and do maintenance on them. There's instrumentation there that measures wind speed and direction, measures precipitation or how much rain we're getting. There are also subsurface instruments on those buoys that measure current speed and direction, how much salt's in the water, what the temperature of the water is. All that information is beamed back up through a satellite and back to the lab here at College of Marine Science. So again, there's physical oceanographers, geologists. How much of the earth is covered by water? A lot of it, 70-some%. So there's a lot of geology under that water. So we may be looking at sediment samples or what the makeup of the sediments on the bottom of the ocean are. So again, physical oceanographers, chemists, biologists. We have other groups on board that maybe we have to supply scuba support for. So again, a lot of different researchers, a lot happens on the vessel. Just to take you through a quick, a progression of a day at sea. I just got back. We were out for about 3.5 days. We left here at 7:30 in the morning. We got on our first station by 10 o'clock and we started working. So we were dragging essentially a large basket behind the vessel along the sediment. And we would bring that up on deck and the scientists on board would sort through and figure out what type of species of gastropods and bivalves, which are shells. They're snails and clams and oysters. So this research group was looking at the populations of different species of these snails all the way down the West Florida shelf in about 5 miles offshore. And then we started all the way down, we went all the way down to south of Naples and then started our way back north. So again, we get on site, we work for a couple hours. As Chris said, we have a full crew on board, which includes 2 licensed captains that operate the vessel, 2 engineers that keep the systems running on board the vessel, and the most important guy on board is the cook. So we've got to eat 3 meals a day. Again, if the vessel's out for 8 or 12 days, we have to provision the vessel before we leave, and the cook that's on board will provide meals for everyone that's on the vessel, both crew and science party. As Chris mentioned, we have generators on board the vessel. So once we're gone from the port here, we can't run an extension cord 100 miles out into the Gulf of Mexico. We have to generate our own power on board, and that's what the generators do. That produces electricity for the lights, for the computers, for any of the other equipment that we have on board the vessel. We have food storage on board, as I talked about. We create our own water on board the vessel. And again, with everybody eating, we do have our own sanitation system on board, which is our sewer system. So we have to treat all of the sewage that's created on board as well. So again, we work 24 hours a day. Obviously, one person can't stay up for 24 hours a day. So we have split crew that work, as Chris said, different shifts. So the vessel continues to operate. We have somebody in the engine room watching the engines and all the mechanical systems on board the vessel. And then we also have a licensed captain in the wheelhouse. In addition to that, we occasionally have a marine technician on board that has upkeep and maintenance responsibility for our internet connection. So again, there's no wireless when you're 200 miles offshore. There is wireless, but it's not run through a land-based system. It's actually satellite-based. So we can get in and check our email if we need to get online and look up parts manuals for a certain type of equipment we have on board. We can also do that. So I think that's kind of it. We operate 24 hours a day. We have a full crew on board. We've got a lot of different researchers. So what I'd like to do is if we have some time to take some questions.
Yeah, that sounds great. Chris and Rob, this is Harris here. Thank you guys. I know you guys do fantastic work firsthand. So let's take some questions, and we've got some good ones coming in, and we'll get to all the questions as much as we can with time. If we don't get to them, we'll send you a response via email. All right, awesome. So let's take a few of these questions. First one coming in. Do you guys have a junior program?
No, unfortunately, we do not. Due to Coast Guard
regulations, we are, this is kind of technical, we're qualified as an oceanographic research vessel by the United States Coast Guard. So that qualification allows us to take researchers to sea, but that is anybody of college age and above, so 18 and above to sail on board the vessel. So unfortunately, we do not have a junior program. There are different programs around the state, including scuba knots.
Yeah.
And, that's just locally. There are some other, there's an oceanography camp for girls that's run out of the College of Marine Science that is, it's a middle school based program that's run by Teresa Greeley here.
And then Sea Camp down in, and then there's also Sea Camp down in the Florida Keys, which takes elementary, middle, and high school students and allows them to do research there on site and out on the water.
Okay, so a lot of great possibilities. Thank you guys for sharing. Next question, very important one here. You mentioned a little bit that you have internet. What happens to the internet during a hurricane or tornado?
Well, that during poor weather or really heavy cloud cover, we do lose our internet service. Now, one thing I will tell you, we will not be out there in a hurricane. We are limited on how long we can stay out. Once the seas start to build, nobody wants to be out there, and it becomes more and more dangerous to deploy equipment. So the dredge that I talked about that we collected the snails with, we couldn't deploy that in rough weather, even in 20-knot winds, which is, we see quite a bit with the cold fronts coming through. It just becomes too dangerous. So when the hurricanes are here, we the lines and we stay here at port.
Okay, and let's ask this next question coming in. What is the average lifespan of a mollusk?
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's a question. Again, my background's in biology, but I didn't deal specifically with mollusks. I think some of the larger ones, the conch, and there's a lightning whelk that get very large. So again, I would have to guess and say probably between 20 and 30 years. The larger ones, some of the smaller ones have a very short lifespan, maybe 3 or 4 seasons.
Okay, we got a good one coming in. You guys mentioned the oil spill. Do you save animals like from an oil spill that you were talking about, or do you study species and pollution?
So we haven't been directly involved with any of the response to wildlife. There are other organizations out there that go out and they'll clean the birds. They'll rescue different large animals, dolphin, manatee. They'll relocate them, but that isn't specifically what we do. We have provided the vessels to return recovered animals or recuperated animals to the Gulf of Mexico. One of our other organizations, as part of the FIO consortium, Mote Marine Lab, does rehab different animals. And we actually took 2 rough-toothed dolphins back out into the middle of the Gulf of Mexico a number of years back. So again, we provide those services, but we're not directly involved with the rescue and rehabilitation of the animals.
Okay. Yeah, I know you guys partner quite a bit, and that's fantastic. It's great teamwork and collaboration. Another question coming in, how much water does the weatherbird displace?
How much displacement? Okay, there's several different tonnages. It is 304 ITC, which is international gross to ICT, international gross tonnage. So if we could lift the boat out and measure the amount of water that was the hull displaced, it would be 304 tons.
Okay. And following that up, how much fuel does it take to run the ships?
Okay, the Weatherbird has a capacity of 18,000 gallons of diesel fuel. And to put that in perspective, that's about 1,000 times more than your parents' car will hold. The Hogarth, because we're not quite as far-reaching with their operations, they hold 6,500 gallons. So yeah, again, a lot of diesel fuel.
Okay.
Good question.
Do you ever take plant samples?
Plant? Yes.
Right.
Actually, there's several groups here and throughout the state that research seagrasses, different sargassum weed, which is a weed that grows far offshore, and it actually has little air sacs that keep it afloat right on the surface of the ocean. And there's large mats, these sargassum mats that are offshore. They study both the actual plant, the sargassum plant, and they also study the ecology that lives under these large mats. There's a lot of larval fish, offshore larval fish that live in these mats. So the red tide organism is photosynthetic. So it is actually a plant. So there are a lot of folks that study those. Different single-celled plants are phytoplankton, and phyto means light, so they require light to grow. So they're actually a plant. So yeah, there's quite a few. In fact, phytoplankton plays a large role in how much carbon is taken out of our atmosphere and dissolved into the surface ocean waters.
Okay.
Recently, we did a lot of research missions dealing with red tide, blue algae, some of the stuff that Rob was talking about. We actually got a little bit of news coverage for some missions that we did with Florida Gulf Coast University. But as you know, we had a big harmful algal bloom issue for the past couple of years. We haven't seen that arise in 2020 yet, It was a big issue for the state of Florida for the past couple of years.
Okay, great, thanks. Got a question coming in. It's asking, how did the boats get their names?
Okay, when we got the Weatherbird, she was already named the Weatherbird. It was prior to FIO operating, it was operated by the Bermuda Biological Station for Research. And their original boat was called the Weatherbird. And I think it was named after a bird that they used to see out in Bermuda. So when they replaced that boat with the Weatherbird, the second boat became the Weatherbird 2. And there's some superstitions involving the changing of a name of a vessel. So once a vessel has a name, it should keep that name. So we kept the name Weatherbird. The research vessel Hogarth is named after our previous director here at FIO that was instrumental in acquiring the money for the construction of the vessel. So W.T. Hogarth is Dr. William Hogarth, who was director here. He also worked for NOAA. He was the head of NOAA Fisheries back in the 1990s.
And also the dean of USF College of Marine Science.
Yes.
And following that up, has a vessel ever sunk?
Not a vessel that the Florida Institute of Oceanography has owned. We have a very safe operation. Our vessels are inspected annually. We have a courtesy inspection by the United States Coast Guard. We also work with ABS, which is a classifying agency. So they look at the structural integrity of the vessel every year. It's the American Bureau of Shipbuilding. So they've been designed and engineered to stay on top of the water. Accidents happen, and as anybody has watched the news, there are boats that sink. We have a very strict safety protocol around here. So we're not out there in hurricanes. Our captains are responsible for making sure the vessel stays safe and our crew and science party come home.
Okay. Can you bring dogs on board?
No, we do not allow pets on board the vessels.
Okay.
And now that hasn't come up with service animals. Nobody has requested that. I know some of the larger vessels may have some accommodation for animals, but we have not. We don't really have facilities to care for an animal on board.
Sounds great. And we're going to end with this last question. What is your favorite sea creature?
Oh boy. I personally am a fish guy, so I like offshore fish, dolphin fish, mahi-mahi, wahoo, all the fish that you find way offshore. So I'll let Chris.
Yeah, for me, it's the manatees, the sea cows, as they call them. I've been swimming with manatees a couple of times, and I even had a calf follow me around and trying to hug me. So yeah, manatees are close to my heart.
Excellent. Hey, thank you guys so much. Again, I know you guys do great work. I know you're really excited to get the kids back out there soon. I've seen it firsthand. Continue the great work you guys do for our environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Harris.
Thanks, Harris.
And thanks everyone for tuning in.